We're going to start it up right now. So, welcome to another episode of the CapmLew podcast. I am your host, CapmLew, and I'm here today with guest co-host
Jeff.
That's right, it's Jeff, who I refer often and publicly to as Jeff Vanover.
I am.
Illustrious skate nerd of the first order. Absolutely.
I'll take it.
Jeff, I'm not saying we're going to make you famous because I don't think we're making anyone famous. You hear the car alarm?
I hope that's not my car.
You want to check?
Yeah.
You got your fob?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Maybe it's your car. Jeff's gonna go check and see if his car is
Is this my
blinking
best
out.
bet?
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. Can you reach
Oh,
it
man.
without falling into the pit? It's
This
not
does not happen on
good. Just
Logan.
bend him.
Oh, I can't see through the window.
Just bend him, bro. Bend it like Beckham. No, like bend him down. 3 of them.
No, I know, but there's boards behind there.
Oh, right. My window's boarded up. Try the front one. Oh, it's stopped.
Okay.
It's stopped.
Either my car has been stolen or it was someone else's car.
Absolutely. Let's check our green lights and make sure. Yes, we're green. We are lav micing. All right. Well, so Jeff's here because Luke has been preoccupied. I've been occupied, not preoccupied. My family didn't just have a baby, but Luke's did. And so you're going to have that. But Jeff is basically artist in residence here. I'm going to do as much content with Jeff over the course of the year as we can fit in. It's exciting. So Jeff, you had a technical question about the Facebook live feed, but we're actually going to change the way that we broadcast. We're going to start to take our 90-minute program and break it into hour 1, hour 2. And hour 1 will be Facebook Live, because the reason we do Facebook Live is because we want to see the questions and comments. They really have been helpful for us in figuring out what we want to say, what we want to talk, what people want us to talk about. But now that our hate mail Gmail is cramming full of spicy stuff, we're beginning to have a pool to draw from.
Good.
And you're always welcome to contribute to that too. When you have a thought, send it over to CapmLew Questions. By the way, dear listeners, CapmLew is spelled C-A-P, the letter M. Capm. And this is, I did not know that this was so lost art. This is the Cockney British I Captain of the pirate ship bygone era of seafaring daring do. This is not CAPN, the stupid red dye number yellow 20
cereal,
that you guys were eating that obviously had neurological impact in the area of your brain that remembers proper Cockney British spelling forms.
Probably thinking of Cap'n Crunch.
Captain Crunch, that's the cereal, CAPN. And that's not the way it was spelled. That's not how it's spelled in Moby Dick and stuff like that. But Captain does end with an N. So I can't hate purely on this small difference. But I can say CapmLew till the cows come home, and when I spell it for people, every one of them. Have you had this happen? Where they just shut down? Did you shut down when you asked me how to spell it? Did you ever ask me how to spell it?
No, I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
When you saw it, did it look strange?
No.
It's okay if it did. I don't mean it. I'm not going to insult you or anything.
No,
except
but I understand how it's open to interpretation.
It is
and
open to interpretation.
I understand.
I think in this moment I'm recognizing I'm being a little bit persnickety, and I really should save that for important things. So, moving on. You and I were talking about this enormous 12-inch wide board behind me. Is it behind me?
It is.
Bring it out. This one is a Life skateboard deck, and we came to realize it is a full 12 inches wide. So this one has a 15.5-inch wheelbase on it. And is it the Curb Nerd?
I am looking it up.
Yeah, we're gonna look this bad boy up because it's just ginormous. I mean, this is my human hand. and that's half. That's intense. So that's cool. Gonna get some 10-inch wide trucks on there and have an inch of overlap. An inch is a lot, but I'll do it. I'll do it. Take it out for some
Get
slappies.
some real big wheels. Maybe
Yeah.
put some extra washers on the inside.
Oh wow! But you don't have that much space on the outside of the axle. You have a couple washers of space, but you're not going to take up
No.
2 inches.
No.
Oh, I know what to do. Get some wheels like I have on this Deutschland over here. These wheels. These are the
Oh my goodness.
Zeppelin helium wheels, and the offset on these is extensive. I actually put them on inside out. I put them on backward so that I would have the offset on the inside, but these will give you an extra inch, and that'll break down the difference. These are big old. These are not center cut. These are cut so they have a huge amount on the outside. You're skilling through Life's website right now,
I'm
aren't you?
having a hard time right now.
Well, they must be under a DNS attack.
But I do see this is a good time to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
You can get a shirt right now.
Dear friends, you can get a t-shirt at 50% off with the order of any deck from Life Skateboards. They are the boards we ride. I've been going through my stacks, and I have gotten to get out on my favorite board right now, my Panhead XL. Where did I put it? I love it, Jeff. Thanks, my guy. Panhead XL. I order it with the 14.75 wheelbase. And fun fact,
Nice.
It looks like a youngster in Colorado just picked one up on those dimensions. I don't know if he's in Colorado. I had a message from him buried in my messages, and it appears that it is a young man I knew when he was young. He's probably like 21 now. And he just ordered one of these. I'm excited because he and I are riding the same specs. It just makes me feel, Jeff, like I have something of maybe not a home, but a little nest in the world among folks who have good taste in boards.
Is that?
No, it's wider in the back than it is in the front.
Okay.
That is a good, it's not narrow in the front. So a pig, the boar, big stinger. It's not a stinger. This is fun, bro.
Shorties.
For our listening audience, it's not so fun. But we're scaling through this website. What's that? Is it the aggro? Yep. I still like. Yeah, this one's bigger in the front than the back. We're looking for one that's bigger. That's it.
That's it.
It is the Curb Nerd. I got one right. That big old board is the Curb Nerd. This is the Panhead XL. I run it on a 14.5-inch wheelbase, which, when they do that at Life Skateboards, that makes my tail dimension is 7. My nose dimension is 7 1/4, and I love that. I love a big nose. I like the large tail on them. I never was a fan of trying to land ollie to tail or tail slide on a short tail, which they were 6.5 during the 90s and 2000s. They were just solidly there. No disrespect intended. I just don't respect that.
Why?
I do. They were working with what they had. It was fine. So there was another issue of question that we had before we started. Oh, I wanted to say, dear listeners, that we're going to start breaking the show into 2 pieces of media and shooting for an hour and an hour. And then doing the first hour with the Facebook Live, the second hour without. That way, we're able to provide a nice flow, 2 episodes in the can. You know, 1 in the can, one out. But that means that the Facebook Live will not be any longer a contiguous, history of the episodes. For that, you'll have to go to Spotify, the CapmLew podcast on Spotify. Spotify, where all the great podcasts live, including your favorite Joe Rogan, for example. Maybe you're more into some David Goggins, or maybe you just want to listen to CapmLew. I don't know. Jeff, stop pestering me.
It's a lot of places you can get
Yeah.
podcasts. Yeah.
We're also on we're on Google, Apple. Lots of folks are
Apple.
listening on Apple.
That's where I usually listen.
Nice. It's
Yeah.
great. And also, we need to say the Captain Lou podcast at gmail.com is our PayPal. And if you'd like to send a one-time gift, or if you would like to send a one-time gift many times, that's the way that we're doing that now. Your gifts are important to us because of how rare and useful money is in the building of a podcast. Yeah, and we're not going to hide our aspiration that with better mics and maybe a little bit more camera action going on, we might be a podcast that is, something like a part to full-time endeavor one day. Start getting some guests in here. We've got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? Why are you my co-host? What's going on with us?
My availability is my willingness. I think maybe right now you and I have different enough views on skateboarding because I'm coming at it from not thinking about it every day in the industry side of it for many years, like when I was younger. Not ever with the industry part of it, but certainly just consumed with thinking about skateboarding. But I guess I have the pleasure of not seeing how the skateboard sausages are made.
Yeah.
Um,
I definitely am a little bit, yeah. I'm not gonna cop to being jaded, but that's only because I'm afraid to. Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
You can insinuate that,
I didn't
but
mean
you didn't
to
mean to.
insinuate
No,
that,
I
but
know
I
you
think
didn't.
I think what yeah.
I know.
But I love picking your brain about things because we have different enough. I don't know. You've kept up.
Do you watch? I have. I've been involved, and in 2019, I disinvolved myself for a. It's funny because COVID hit right after I disinvolved myself. It was May 2019. June 1st was the last day that there was Fickle Skateboards and Midwest Blue Collar, and then it was just 6 months from then or so that COVID hit. As far as I remember it. I don't remember what month it was, but I think it was March. It was March 3rd when I caught COVID. I was on a job. It had been in the news.
Well, you got in early.
I got hit hard.
Yeah.
I was anchoring. I was putting redheads, which are an anchor. You drill the concrete. We were putting up walls in a warehouse. They were barriers, lightweight barriers in a warehouse. And we were redheading them. They were like the metal bottom post holder, and
Okay.
we were redheading them down. So I was running a hammer drill and putting in redheads, probably 6 hours, and every hour I was just worse and worse and worse. And I was, as they say in the biz, dragging ass. And when I got in the car on the way home, I fell asleep, and it was not a comfortable car.
You weren't driving.
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I just was riding home.
Okay.
I fell asleep, and I came home, and just vaped my way through the whole thing, because I wasn't gonna come off nicotine at the same time I was. So I drank coffee and vaped until I started getting better, and then it was just mayhem. You were also having a fun time around that time.
Was.
You
Yep.
were.
Yep.
You went in for a body modification.
I did. Yeah. They done fixed my heart right around that time. It was in August of 2020. Yeah. My aorta tore. So I was.
You had
was there for a while.
he had a bisected descending aorta.
You're so close.
Ascending?
Yeah.
Dissected.
I had an ascending. Yeah. Aortic aneurysm dissection repair.
It means it blew out.
Yeah. It just tore.
And we actually spoke about this when
Yep.
you were on before, but
Yep.
I think it answers my question, which I did stay with,
There we
which
go.
is why Jeff Vanover?
Yeah.
Why don't I just go down the street and pick someone who rode for some company from California? That we've got them around. Why am I you know, why wouldn't a guy like me jump on my motorbike and go down and have Bill Danforth would be on here every week, you know, like why? And here's
I guess I should go now.
yeah. The,
I'm
the thing
sorry.
is I won't. Well, I would of course.
I already
I
am
would
not
let you
sure
go.
why I'm here. But
Yeah.
no, I get it. I get it.
You do get it because
I do
you
understand.
are it because Jeff is not only how old are you? 45.
I'm 45.
He's 45, and you skated as a kid. Then you didn't skate
When high school. When high school was over.
when cars hit.
Yeah.
When cars hit.
It was
And-
probably, yeah. I
and-
had a skateboard in my car for about a year and a half. It stayed in the trunk more than anything else.
What age was that?
17.
Okay, so 17, 18 years old, skateboarding falls out of your life. Okay, and
They got smaller.
okay, that's close to my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got smaller and the tricks got harder.
And I was never a trick guy anyway,
Okay.
except for running up on a curb.
So, for people to get to know CapmLew better,
Yeah.
there's a profile emerging here. Okay, it's a profile of appreciation, things that I appreciate, and by that I mean things that I, I attach a high price to these things, and you're describing. And so from 18 to when? How old were you when you the bug bit again?
It was after. So it's been within the last 2 years. I would
43.
say.
I'll call it 43.
Yeah.
42, 43.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was less
42
than
might
it was
be
about
easier.
a year after, because I'm coming up on 3 years since I've had my heart event, and I was I was wanting to do something. Everything felt forced that I
Yes.
wanted to go out and do because I'm
Yes.
not really a person that goes. I just don't. I'm not a sports person at all. But I always loved skating, and again, like pushing around, like. Yeah.
Okay, so 18 to 42. So what I've done is I've created a math equation, right? And this is problematic if you get to know old Captain Lew. He does not know. Speaking of yourself in the third person is one sign that it's all gone to your head, right? So I've got a, and you can see I can't even write a math equation out without having to cross through numbers. So I'm going to do 42 minus 18, which is what it should be. But because I wrote 18 minus 42, I'm going to go ahead and come out with a negative number. And then afterward, I'll just scribble through the negative. 'Cause I'm just looking for the difference. So 8 minus 2, okay, I have to rewrite it. So 42 minus, I'm going back to classic, 18. So 2 minus 8, that's a 3, carry the 1. And 12 minus, it's 4. That's, I got it. And 3 minus 1 is 2. 24 years. 24 years, and you always label the sum in terms of the word equation. Otherwise, you lose points on the test.
Okay.
I remember that, and I put it in a box because that's the way they taught me in 1982. So, 24 years, you're off the board. And then the bug bites after your body mod. Yeah.
Although during that 24 years, I would be that guy that I would keep him to myself because nobody wants to hear like, "Hey, I used to skate." But like, anytime I'd see somebody skate, I would pull over and watch them skate.
Oh.
Or like, I mean, and again, even though the skating wasn't, I don't want to sound like a.
Sound like whatever it sounds like, my guy. Nobody listens to this anyway.
I skated when nobody really cared that much about tricks. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't about technical stuff as much. Again, the board just it was maybe a little bit more about style, or at least in my mind, that's the way I perceived it.
That's cool.
And I checked out. I'm like, well, I can't do that anymore.
But you would
I like-
stop to watch.
Oh yeah, always. And like, and you, it's like watching any sport on television that continues to get bigger and better. Like you watch it evolve, like the X Games. Like when you watch people on motorcycles and dirt bikes, like at first people would just jump up in the air and you know that was impressive. And then somebody would fly up and you know then their hands would go off. And now, you know, people fly up and
I mean, I was watching a clip the other day. Uh, I'll talk about this in a minute, because what this profile, why Jeff Vanover is a person that I want on the podcast all the time. Anytime Luke can't be here, I immediately am like, can I get Jeff? And
I'd like to do one with Luke.
I want that too,
Yeah.
and we will. We're gonna do that. We have to figure out our mics, because we actually tried to combine 2 sets to get 3 mics. It's only 2 channels on the receiver, so we're working on it. But one day we'll have a 4-channel mixer, and they're not that expensive, you know. But we'll get a 4-channel mixer, and we'll get 3 shotgun mics. Quality's going to be way up. We will not be wearing headphones.
I was gonna say I
We
want a
have
Garth Brooks.
been-
I know. I
we
think
have-
about this every
we
time.
have been having nightmares about the headphone dent.
I
Now,
feel for it.
I also have a joint in my head in the same spot. You and I both have a joint there. That's where our big, strong forehead bone meets our less strong other bones. But man, when we throw headphones on, we're gonna have a headphone dent in our heads.
Dude.
We keep this up there just for that. So when we get the shotgun mics, we're still gonna stay away from. We might do in-ears or something like that. But so you had skateboarding, like you. I didn't know that you used to stop and watch, but that's a sign of a true. Like
Well, because
in
it
your
became
heart
in
level.
a way, much to some skateboarders' chagrin,
Mhm.
it became so popular. You know, it got in the Olympics and everything else. That could be a good topic for another time.
I don't
Yeah.
have a lot of yeah. You know what? We could talk about that another time.
Just another time. But so yeah, it was. I couldn't stop watching skating evolve. It was kind of like watching. It's kind of like the way I feel about the way I play guitar.
You're a good guitar player.
Well, that's very kind of you, as you are as well.
And
But I realized at a certain point, I'm not going to be the fastest guitar player, so maybe I should try to work on something else.
Style.
Yeah. Again, like your style ends up being a culmination of your limitations.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, style is what you do with what you've got.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the car. We picked up one of my guitars from the repair shop today, and we were talking about, because Jeff played a gig, and a George Jones cover band. He got asked to come and play 4 songs on this gig, and out of the box, Jeff can jump out and he can run bluegrass licks. They're good. They're fine. They're standard stock.
Yeah.
Stock standard
Yeah.
issue bluegrass licks are what he does, among many other things, on the guitar. You worked at Sam Ash.
Mm-hmm.
You sat around with guitars forever. You've loved guitar forever. Guitar kind of took front seat to skateboarding in your life.
They started at the same time, all because of Back to the Future. I know I've already talked
It's
about
lovely.
it. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
lovely, and
There are
that's
a
the way
lot of
kids
people-
grow.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
I started karate because it wasn't because of the Karate Kid. It was something I wanted to do. But when I saw the Karate Kid at 11 years old, I was lit for it, because I was bullied as a kid, like the Karate Kid got bullied as a kid, and like I was like really, really touched by that movie because of being bullied. It was hardcore too. This was not just stock standard.
And he
issue
was
bullying.
from New Jersey.
New Jersey, and
right?
I was living in New York.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah.
So our passions and our interests they evolve. Skateboarding fell in the background, but what really struck me was when you first approached me. You approached me almost like, I'm gonna use the term fan.
Yeah.
You approached me like almost like a fan, and what I was hearing in that was, dude, this guy loves skateboarding more than I do by like a factor of 100. This guy, you laid out kind of where you're at with the physical aspect of skateboarding, and I was like, I need to be with people, and people need to hear the voices of people who are pure enthusiasm. who are like just stoked to be able to be around the thing. And that's what I found on the welfare line as well. The welfare line is closed right now. They're not taking new members. But the welfare line skateboard collectors, they come from an interesting history I won't go into, but that history was fraught with cultural conflict between the purists, you know, the insider club of purists, and a bunch of guys that just, it's just super fun. And they didn't like, I think that to some extent they got the boot from a bunch of purists. So they started, this is back in the days when it was just a forum basis, and Facebook was like brand new. And they started their own group of guys who bought cheap reissue boards because they just loved this stuff. Whereas the purists, the real collectors, were only buying new old stock or used old stock, you know, used boards that were true vintage. And these guys were like, no, we're, I wonder if that affects anything. Luke's gonna get, that's fine. I got a phone call. It came through. It's fine. Looks like it didn't affect everything. Yeah. That's another aspect. I'm not gonna, I should probably do the do not disturb, but I don't know if it'll mess up again. Anyway, so, what I don't know what the opposite of a purist would be, but I think we're just talking about elitism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the words I wrote down on the card while we were talking was true amateur. The word amateur, of course, is French, which means that until you learn what it means, the people who know what it means are better than you, because that's how French is. But I'm going to fix all that for all of you right now. Amateur means lover. Now, it's different from amant, which is an English transliteration. Amant means a lover in the romantic sense. But an amateur is a person who enthusiastically loves something. And the sort of complement to that is a professional. An amateur does something or is all about something because of their enthusiasm for it. But a professional, as whether or not they have enthusiasm, the bottom line is the bottom line. They're in business, you know? And I like not only to surround myself with amateurs who are enthusiastic and who can ground me in this stuff, but and I like to pick on professionals, being one, and ought to be picked on myself, and I'm totally excited about getting picked on. I am.
Weird.
Well, I've definitely earned it. Have you heard how we talked about that one podcast, The Bunt?
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if
the number one skateboarding podcast.
Brought to you by Vans. Oh my gosh. Bunt holes and bunt wipes?
Really?
Not joking.
That's what they call
their supporters
themselves?
No, they call their supporters bunt holes and bunt wipes.
I've heard worse.
It's hilarious. And you know what? Kudos. Go for it, guys. Keep going. All in good fun. But your status, you don't know this. In 2002, a year after the Dogtown Z-Boys documentary hit, there was an influx of old guys who had quit. They wanted to come back because the surfers had spoken. Those guys were surf-style skateboarding. And that's what I love. I hadn't quit. I did take off a period of time. I counted at somewhere in the 2-point-something year range. This was a huge deal back then. If you took off any time at all, you lost it. It was like that unhealthy approach to recovery where it's all about consecutive days. Consecutive days in recovery are important, extremely important, but Cumulative days are also cool too. If you go from a 365 habit to a 180 habit, that's, your organs are getting a break. If you go from a 180 habit to a 75-day habit, the problem with all of those habits is they can go back to 365 real fast. That's why 365 days off is the best number of them when it comes to recovery from substance abuse.
That's why I can't drink Mountain Dew like a little bit. I just have to completely.
That's right. It just takes over. Something switches between your amygdala and your ventromedial hypothalamus, and you're in the locked in, uncontrollable Mountain Dew rage.
It doesn't even taste sweet after a certain point.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we can get Mountain Dew to.
Well, I have a comment from Sam Cook, and he says it definitely doesn't work that way with addiction. Except, here's the thing: when a guy who's in addiction or a gal, when they fall off the wagon, and they hit their they hit like a 7-day, a 10-day problem, and they want to get back on the wagon. Some of them, it's an obstacle, but now they feel like they lost everything. And I try to help people in addiction recognize that you did not lose all of those days that you were clean. Come back into them. They're still yours. They're still all yours. Always looking to be free, But with skateboarding, there was a period of time when Facebook was young and fresh where even the skate shops here in the Midwest were throwing out a line that if you ever left, never come back. Because they had old guys coming in and asking for Indy 169 and 63 millimeter slime balls and coming in and being old guys and being not good. There was a strong investment that the level shouldn't be allowed to drop. That was another thing in that era, that we don't want these guys. This was a public conversation. Some of it is still probably in the Wayback Machine, of guys who are in the industry saying, we can't let these people in because then the level will drop, which is a very, very complex thing. And I was like, no, these guys are the best. These guys are the ones that are going to be the most stoked about a slappy grind or a kick turn or wherever they're at. I mean, some of them were coming out of the box and throwing kick flips. I was always impressed by the guys of talent, but and I was asked at 26 years old, wow, what, you're too old to skateboard by the kids. And now, obviously they weren't able to keep them away. And I'm seeing some of the coolest content out there. The stuff that stokes me is coming from people in this lane. And some of the most I'm sorry, I'm just trying not to use French words, but my raison d'etre, right? My reason for being in skateboarding is really right along this lane. I'm like a guy who's like, yeah, let's skate together because we're having fun and there's enthusiasm and there's joy at the simple things that are so fun on a skateboard, whether pushing, do I push Mongo? Do I push regular? Do I push Goofy? Do I, what am I? We did that.
Yeah.
And that day is a really fond memory for me.
Oh man, there aren't too many people that would have done that either. I've got a ton of neuropathy in my left foot, so I've kind of had to learn to do a lot of things over again, and pushing all of a sudden is a
pushing and
standing. Being on my foot's kind of weird, which kind of makes skateboarding weird. But again, that's why I'm having so much fun dorking out about stuff that a lot of, I'm sure, I don't want to say most, but I'm sure a lot of real skaters don't even think about, think about wheelbase maybe, and Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out like what kind of things would make this easier for me, like some big wheels, shorter wheelbase.
Yeah,
because I'm not really going to be going that fast.
That's right.
So it's all right for me to have a shorter wheelbase and tic-tac around and get moving, so I don't have to push as much.
I have in my brain, if I were to do an event today, like a public event, I would find a sloped parking lot with really good surface. I would do a meetup, and I would keep 2 close locations as backups. We would do a sloped parking lot crawl. As we get kicked out of one, we'd move to the next. And we would geotag it so the guys who were coming in later would know which parking lot we were at now. And all it would be was a sloped parking lot tour for folks to come and carve around. You know, and I have a suspicion that it would pull all kinds of skateboarders, because I'm not the only, like, been skating for 38 years skateboarder who I pine for simpler enjoyment. I really don't enjoy watching the young bucks huck themselves down staircases. I've been present to too many broken ankles, broken arms, head injuries. I'm a dad and I'm tired. I love to push and carve, but I also have been known to try a few kickflips. And you can do that on a sloped parking lot too. And all those old guys and those gals who are starting, and the moms, they like watching people do kickflips.
Yeah.
They do. And you might wind up having, that's the kind of event that the CapmLew podcast will probably wind up throwing, probably next year, is these parking lot crawls that are just for everyone, but there'll be a joke regulation, 4 points of contact at all times. All right. It's, of course, we're not going to adhere to that, but the 4 points, parking lot crawl.
Can I still use my tail to stop?
That's
3.
That right there.
3 points.
That harkens back to our last podcast.
I know.
When I want, instead of doing a manual, I want to start on purpose ollieing up on something and just dragging my tail all the way across it in a tail wheelie. I want to do that. And I want to never manual anything in my life ever again. I just want to drag my tail. And I am 100% forecasted that I'm going to build myself some really fun tail protectors and start doing that.
Can't wait.
With impunity, Jeff. Impunity. Brace yourselves.
Well, I'm cheap and I love the decks that I have, and they're going to last forever anyway, because unless they just break under the pressure of me, which they're not.
It's just not going to happen. Yeah.
Again, I love life skateboards. I really do.
They are sturdy.
They're very, very sturdy.
And they're made right. I learned where they're made. They're made in New Arlington, Indiana.
Okay. See, I thought it was Muncie.
It's not. They moved from Muncie to Kingstown.
Okay.
And then from Kingstown, they were bilocational at Muncie and Kingstown, and then they moved to New Arlington. It's not New Arlington. It's New Palestine. Sam told me, he's like, can you start telling them the right place?
Sorry, Sam.
That was something. I'm not sorry. There. I love sticking it to him. New Palestine, Indiana is the new location, which, by the way, is only minutes outside of Indianapolis, on the southeast of Indianapolis. Still an hour and 35 minutes from my house, but that's a lot. That's a good chunk closer than Muncie was, at 2 hours and 4 minutes on the Googles, which takes me like 3 hours because I'm always stopping to drink Starbucks and pee. So,
tail guard. Yeah. So I went. I definitely.
Well, so you're never gonna have like this tail guard conversation about bringing back. Dude, we're bringing back tail guards, and we're gonna workshop them. I don't know. Maybe my new vocation in skateboarding is beyond board making. Is just putting well-fitted tail guards onto people's boards, drop it off, and I'll put the tail guard on there with screw-throughs, ground off, regripped.
You're gonna do it your way.
I will do it my way,
Your
which
17 point.
is you sand the deck, you sand the tail guard, okay? Your tail guard is pre-drilled. 2 screws will do with all that epoxy. You epoxy it on, then you throw the screws through. You cut the grip tape and peel it off with a heat gun. Don't get the laminate hot. Oh, come on, guys, just let me do it, all right? And then you shoot a couple of screws all the way through, grind them off at the top, clip them, grind them flat, regrip.
I promise I won't do it. I'll let you do it. It's too many steps.
It's so many steps, but it's like a 10-minute job.
But again, that's the thing that's going to kill a deck for me eventually, is getting razor tail, because
then you run a router or a cutter, you bring it to flush, and then you sand it. Then you hit poly where the sander touched the wood, and you poly the board. Then you regrip it after you poly. And that's, it takes probably an hour's worth of work that a guy who's doing it regularly can do in 15 minutes. And you can get these things tailed up with a guard on there that's going to last a really long time. Now, theoretically, a guy wears his tail guard down. The thing is that the more you wear it down, the more tail guard is touching. So as you wear the corner off of a tail guard, the contact surface extends, and the wear rate slows because you have more surface area. But the way I would be doing it would be harder to get off and replace, because it's epoxied, because it's like so permanent.
What kind of material are you imagining?
HDPE, high density polyethylene, cutting board.
Like a cutting
material.
board, so something
solid.
How thick?
I would only go 1/4 inch.
Okay, so you're not talking like those really flimsy cutting boards that are like.
If you wanted to, with the kind of riding that we're talking about and the kind of wearing it down we're talking about, you'd go 1/2 inch. You go 1/2 inch with it, and you're fine. It would have to be drilled, and then it would have to be countersunk.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to countersink it so your screw heads are nice and deep. You need a good countersink on a drill press that puts it the right depth. But it's really doable. And I don't like the tail guards that you buy at the store,
mm-hmm.
but they're not terrible as long as you want to kind of sand them off and fill, because they sit with a gap around the edge of the board. And I used to take epoxy and fill that gap, and so you have even epoxy in the gap. Have Lyle on the podcast. I will have Lyle on the podcast. It's going to be super fun. So also, it is a solemn promise to you and to our listeners that I will begin the tailguard journey, the custom installed Keystone turnkey tailguard service, at least for myself and close friends.
Yes.
And then I will stop doing manuals at all. I will always only put my tail down, and I will start to stop foot stopping as well. I'll start to stop. I like foot stopping, where you put one foot down.
Oh yeah, no,
I like that.
I covet that. Yeah,
I do. Foot stopping, you can do it light and just keep going. And with my shoes, I have a new pair of Vans. They've got probably 10, 15 sessions on them. And I only wear them to skate. I'll wear these old Vans to walk around in, and then when I get to the skate park, I'll put the new Vans on, put the old Vans on there. But I'm afraid someone will spit in them. Yeah. I don't want someone to... So I put them upside down. I put them upside down. Well, they haven't done it yet. Don't be hurt by what people haven't done.
Well, I mean, if they're mean enough to spit in your shoe, do you think that turning your shoe upside down would...
Well, at least make them work for it, though.
Yeah, that's true.
at least I'll make them work for it. So, I can't help but wonder whether this lav mic is going to be picking up properly if I have it like that. I'm going this way. I've been dissatisfied with my sound quality. I have a soft voice, and it just isn't coming through. Gotta get some new gear in here. It's fine. So, a true amateur is a great thing to be. it's really, really, I think it's the sweet spot in skateboarding. And I couldn't help but notice that the elitism of the mid 2000s into even mid 2010s, like 10 years of strong elitism pushing back, it's been overwhelmed by a ton of boys and girls and women and old fat guys coming in and just wearing the cut-off camo BDUs and the black sweatshirts and black shirts. You're doing it. You're wearing cargo shorts.
I didn't. Yeah, I was hoping
you're
you wouldn't.
literally in uniform right now because it's the most comfortable thing to wear. Do you know that in our back shot, usually, absolutely,
yeah.
In our backdrop, usually when the door is closed, there's
some
pair
camo.
of
I see
camos, and
you want me to just put them on?
I'm not on camera, but I'm wearing a pair of oversized Dickies with a shoestring belt and a white T-shirt today because it is hot outside, sweltering, steamy Ohio heat. But so dorking out,
yeah,
is a term you used. I talk about nerding out, dorking out, and you used a term, real skaters.
I hope my air quotes.
He used some air quotes.
I use them, and I tried to make it for the podcast listeners as well.
That's cool, Jeff.
Well, no, I just wanted everybody to know that I was insinuating air quotes. Right, that compared to a quote unquote real skate, like I know that.
Yeah.
I was not one of them, but also,
wow.
You know, if you're nice enough, people accept you.
I was the
guy that watches people's stuff.
I was in I've been in situations where not being one of them is a thing. Lots of times. And I'll tell you this, when I look at who's them and who's us, right?
Yeah.
And I look at Jeff Vanover sitting here, neuropathy in his foot, heart surgery, a miracle that you're alive.
Miracle man.
And you go into the skate shop, legendary, enthusiastic, puppy dog nerd, you know.
Every embarrassing cliche thing that could have been said, it was me.
All of the tropes are present in this guy, and I glom onto that because if there are always us's and them's. It's a human nature thing, and I want to skate with nerds, and I know I go fast and I do stuff on my skateboard. I'm not a great skateboarder or anything like that, but you're cringing as I say that.
Because it's not, yeah.
Because the stuff I do on my skateboard, you would love to be able to do those things, you know, and I get that. Yeah. Those are the things I do on my skateboard are the few things I chose as a kid that, like a stalled out Smith stall on a 4-foot quarter pipe when I was a kid, tweaking a Smith stall, I locked in on it. Or doing an ollie melon grab, like the melancholy. That is quintessential. It's a flying sidekick of skateboarding, you know. Ollieing over something. I never cared about kickflips because when I learned how to ollie over things, I had arrived, dude. I had arrived, and kickflips were really a bummer because you had to stop all the time while you're learning them. And back then, kickflips were rocket. You know, the board was pointed up and you were kicking off the side, and I couldn't see the payoff, you know, because I liked flying and surfing. And a big raking frontside grind across something. Man, when I learned frontside grinds across something, I didn't even want to do backside grinds. If I could do that all day, why would I do anything else? I'm just like you. You know, I'm like, man, just to be able to do these 5 things I do is more than enough. It's more than enough. I'm like pathologically satisfied. In regard to like becoming a real skateboarder, I'm pathologically content. In terms of real skateboarding, the only reasons I could conceive of for learning the like super expert level would be for what other boys are going to think of me.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I don't care what other boys think of me. I got a wonderful woman in my life. I've raised men. I care what they think of me, you know. And I've got this walk with God thing that's lifting me up under everything I do. I care what God thinks about me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to break my ankle on purpose so that a bunch of guys yell, yeah, give me a high five and a bro hug. But at the same time, when I'm skating with those guys, like I did in Louisville a month or so ago, and they're high fiving and bro hugging, I get that too. I do. I understand guys wrestling out a huge battle for a trick and he wants to get it on film and it's the end of the tour and he's all blown out. I get it. He was really in his battle and I really loved seeing him make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bro hugging and chest bumping too, you know. But no, I'm good. I'm super good. I'll be pushing around in a slope parking lot with Jeff, or Jeff can come out. You can watch me. I'd love to take you to Batesville.
I'll film. Yeah.
I'd love to have you photograph. Are you any good at taking photos? Do you know? Have you
I
ever
don't.
done that?
So I guess I'll say no. I don't know. Not the worst, but I don't have any special skill. I try to get things in the middle.
I'm looking for a person to do photography for a project, and I ought to see how you do, because I would love to do that project with you, and you have a high availability.
Yes.
Can you travel at all?
Yes.
Ah, it's just getting better and better over here at the CapmLew podcast.
It's true.
We're gonna bring Jeff Ann over on staff. We promise we're going to pay you exactly what we pay ourselves.
Oh, good.
It's good.
Good.
We believe in equality of wages in the beginning phase of the CapmLew podcast. So, Jeff, you'll be receiving your first payment as soon as you start, and it will remain the same until we reach another phase. Virality awaits.
That's fantastic.
Well, so I'm sitting here. We talked about. You brought up the Olympics. We're going to table the Olympics.
Yeah, that's.
But today we're talking about amateur versus professional, and there's an old conversation that's been had many times about the philosophical difference that once you start paying someone for something they used to do for love, it can have an impact on their entire view of the subject.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
And it can cheapen and objectify something that was so subjectively beautiful. It can destroy art. It can just destroy things. You start paying someone, even a writer. I think we all need to admit that Great Expectations is not a very good book. None of us enjoyed reading it, and he was paid by the word. It's right there. Charles Dickens, a hack.
There.
Plato, Aristotle, morons.
Said it. Morons.
So I had another note down here. So we did the tail guard thing. That was cool. And I wanted to profile you in this so that folks who are listening can understand that I have an underpinning belief that these old guys that got gate kept in the beginning days when the Dogtown Z-Boy thing came out, they are the ones who make it safe and good and lay the track for the train to come through of there's all kinds of vulnerable people who have historically been marginalized in skateboarding. The vulnerable people I'm thinking of first line are people who identify as LGBTQ+. That didn't exist back in the Big Brother days, but being called gay was enough to get you drummed out of town and death threats from skateboarders in those days. And I'm not here to cast aspersions or try to like virtue signal toward that. That's just how it was. And although I cast aspersions at that was bad. That's not how anything works in a free society, right? But the other group of people, and I don't know if it's more numerous, I think it is, it's just women. Mm-hmm. Women in skateboarding have had the rawest deal, not as maybe it is. You couldn't get a death threat for being a woman in skateboarding. That's not the way it worked. That's the way it worked if you were called gay, right? Or if you were found to be a gay person. You get death threats. But women in skateboarding were treated extremely badly for long enough that I think it behooves us to continually have a checkup conversation. And long enough, and gays in skateboarding or LGBTQ plus people in skateboarding have had such a violently, desperately terrible treatment that it behooves us to have a continued long-term checkup conversation about that. Skateboarding is not a religion. It's not articles of faith. It's not a community with walls. It's not a closed set. It's playing with a toy.
There it is. I think about it all the time. It's still a toy.
It's a toy.
Yeah, I know. I say it so often, but
were you back in the day? Were you privy to skateboarding's vehement misogyny and it's not homophobia. Phobia is a Greek term.
Yeah, I grew up in the
fear.
80s. So yeah.
So phobia is a Greek word for fear, and it wasn't fear. I don't know the word for hate. It wasn't fear of gay people. That's a term we used to try to spin it that these people were being weak and that they were afraid, usually because, I mean, the numbers are out on how many young men have been gotten by pedophilic or pederasty. Pedophilia and pederasty are very widespread. You familiar with those terms? Mm-hmm. Our listeners might not be. Pedophilia, I think we all know about, but pederasty, and there are other terms. There are other categories of sexual deviance toward minors in a predatory lane. And a lot of people, homophobia is a term that insinuates that a person is acting out of repressed attraction, repressed gay feelings, and they're lashing out against gay people because they themselves, to their horror, are experiencing sexual attraction, same-sex attraction, mm-hmm. which is so much more common. Same-sex attraction is so common in the human race mm-hmm. that it really is a terrible shame that people were ever persecuted for experiencing it, to the point where people were so afraid that they would lash out. So homophobia is an important term and even has a good therapeutic edge to it. But skateboarding was just hated on gay people. Did you ever read Big Brother when you were young?
Occasionally. I would have to go to somebody else's house to look at that.
You had good, caring, loving parents.
Yeah. I had to go to somebody else's house and look at it.
Big Brother was like porn.
Overnight. Yeah.
It had like porn in it. Yeah. I remember as an awful, promiscuous, horny young man looking at Big Brother and thinking, this is really bad for kids. Like I was like a 14, 15-year-old and I was like, this is real bad for kids. Awesome.
Probably sold a lot of magazines.
They did. There's that professional aspect.
I just wanted to see the ads of all the complete boards with the matching color wheels because I'm old.
$199 completes.
Unless you wanted to get something with Bonite or whatever, it was another
$25.
Something like that.
Yeah. Did you ever have a Bonite board?
No.
A Bonite is a great palate cleanser because we're talking about something that's very heavy right now and it needs to be talked about a lot. There are women in skateboarding for a long time. Alyssa Steamer, Cara Beth Burnside. And for all the appearances and things I've read, They are tough people. They are very tough. But Alyssa Steamer left skateboarding for surfing. And I watched a surf interview with her, and she said, yeah, man. There is no link in the description. We're not there yet. But my, olfactory test on that was that she was describing skateboarding as being a real chore culturally. As a woman. It was a real chore culturally.
Wow.
And
that is a very nice way of saying
she was in a hostile environment.
That, yeah, I'm sure she was treated awfully.
I bet though that one of the things I kind of picked up, and this could be me, this could be her, but I picked up that she understood it was a boys' club and that she was being included. Perhaps someone might opine that she was a little bit culturally complicit since her bread was getting buttered, and there was good stuff coming to her, so she kind of played along with I'm not accusing her of doing that.
Yeah, I don't know everything. I don't know a lot about her. I think she's super cool though.
I think I heard her describing kind of keeping your head down. Yesterday I went to the Harley Davidson store. I don't like going to Harley stores a lot, but I needed a new hat, and I like Harley Davidson hats. I wish they would make them with the logo upside down, because that's how I feel about the motor company. But I went to the Harley Davidson store, and I was involved in an interaction with a female staff member in which she intimated to me, oh man, I'm being careful. She intimated to me that she got told, just an offhanded comment like, do the women's work and dust this or that. And I talked to her about it, and I said to her, if that's really a dominant experience at work, you should definitely throw a nice, well-documented email over to HR, because we gotta not be like that about stuff, at least professionally. When you come to work for a giant corporation, I don't know how much love you're feeling all day long. You shouldn't have to add to it the great love you feel when someone treats you like that. And maybe it was totally good-natured. Maybe it was spoofing misogyny, because misogyny is not a thing anymore, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The intention can be there,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was a transgressive jest by someone who it would be ridiculous that they would even think like that. But
there are people that think like that. Though.
There are, and so, but it hit her in a tender spot, and she was not happy with it, and she said, "I won't do that because I want to enjoy my work." And she knew it would make her miserable if she complained, and she bucked against it. And I think we're progressing past that. It's becoming more and more commonplace for people to be respectful. For people to be respectful toward each other is becoming more commonplace. What do you think?
I think you are so right in I don't know how to say in what aspect. I feel like yes, we're starting to become, I think, a little bit more sensitive
maybe
towards where other people are coming from, and not to judge strangers if but all that being said, also there are some people, not to just bring this back to COVID and stuff like that, but
COVID sucked.
It did. And I feel like people have I don't know if not that we're gonna get back to where we were, but boy, something has changed.
We're going somewhere else. We're not going back there. We're going.
People drive more aggressively now.
I noticed it. I think so.
I don't know if we lost social skills because we didn't have to.
I was talking to someone who was saying I used to be able to drive 100 miles an hour on my way because there were no cops. There was no tickets, and there were no cars. Cincinnati is starting to obviously the population is increasing here. Mm-hmm. Our rush hour went from being a 40-minute rush hour with no stoppages, just close, to now it's an hour and a half long rush hour with stoppages over a 15-mile, south 71 to the river. you've got 3 full stops on the way down, parking lot. You know, it's full. Locals take the surface streets level now, and our city will never be the same. It will now pack out. And imagine if they hadn't done all that widening.
Oh yeah.
For decades, they were widening everything, and everyone's like, wow, wow, wow.
Yes, it's
orange
never going to be
cones.
finished.
Go
yeah.
until you see the orange cones, and keep going until you see the orange cones, and you're just going to keep going. The orange buckets forever.
But
you know?
finally, you get closer to downtown, and there's like 5 lanes of
And they're packed as a parking lot.
Yeah.
If they hadn't done all that mayhem. But so this thing about, like, when you think of a Cara Beth Burnside or you think of an Alyssa Steamer, you can see that. And Mimi Knoop has done amazing work in skateboarding to open it up to girls and to foster and create spaces, if you will, cultural spaces for girls. And I don't know if you're hep to all that, because you're just, like, what are you? You're dorking out,
Yes.
right? But you've got these spaces. You care about these things deeply. Talking to you, I can see you're hep to the game on that skateboarding should be for everybody only. That's Luke Coffey coined that, little turn of phrase. Everybody only is our ethic here at the CapmLew podcast. Because skateboarding it's not articles of faith. We don't have to be blessed by the corporate culture machine that has run the elitist, hyper vigilant boys club of the 90s through the mid 2010s. Like the nerds have won. The nerds have won. This is Floyd Howard Pruitt. This is a poster they made of him in the welfare line. Floyd is part of this wave. You're part of this wave of people who you're just being yourselves. Who knew that could be a revolutionary act? But in our time in history. But so I wanted to.
I'm sorry, really quickly. Floyd rules, by the way.
Yeah, Floyd does.
Floyd Pruitt is awesome. What is the name of the flea? What is he called?
Hop?
The Hop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I purchased some boards from the Hop, and I got them in 2 days from Florida to Cincinnati. And a bunch of stickers.
Love
you, Floyd.
Everyone who comes into contact with Floyd, he has bad days just like the rest of us, but Floyd remembers that kindness is law. And I've gotten to stay at Floyd's house, and his hospitality to me is paralleled by several other people I've been taken care of in my life, by people who they're people who love. They're amateurs. They're true amateurs, pure amateurs. And these are the people. You haven't met Tommy Story yet.
No.
I can't wait. I don't have the time in my life now that I don't work in skateboarding. I don't have the time because there's no revenue return on my time investment in skateboarding. So I don't get to go like 3 hours to Terre Haute and spend a weekend skating in Terre Haute, taking along a guy with me and going and doing this. That's my hope with the podcast, is that we can get our sound quality up or whatever it takes. We also haven't promoted the podcast. We're not pulling clips and putting them onto Tik-Tok or GoobTube or whatever. But if we keep insulting the bunt, we hope that maybe those guys will blow us up with some hate.
It's an interesting way to go.
I tipped my hand. That's so Machiavellian of me. No, my critique of the bunt is sincere. So, but when it comes to this, I don't think that the pivot that's happening in skateboarding right now toward inclusivity is I don't know, it's not adequate for me to the outrage I feel for the decades of insanity that went down. That might be wrong of me. I'm ready to abandon that. But my hackles are rising so hard watching the same guys who edited Big Brother now pretend like they've always been just lollipops and rainbows, and it's causing some cognitive dissonance for me, along those lines. And then the people who have been more open-minded never militated. They never were like, yo, skateboarding is for everyone, It does cause me to appreciate things like Tired. That was one of the first forays into old fat guy skateboarding. And also people like Mimi Noop, who really pioneered not just girls skateboarding, but opening up spaces for people who don't identify on a non-binary sexual identity model.
Yeah.
That's super important. But I'm wondering if maybe one day we can mature kind of past it all into like, you're riding a skateboard. I don't care what you're wearing or who you sleep with. I don't care how you do 1,000 things. I like that you're riding a skateboard. Let's ride skateboards together. No matter what your side gig is.
Yeah.
Like no matter what your side gig is, I want to ride skateboards with you. I thought that worked.
Do you? Let me show my ignorance some more.
Let's both do that.
Do you? I wonder. Do you think is the skateboarding community are the gatekeepers starting to go away because they're getting older? Like as people maybe are a little bit more tolerant, like the younger generations.
But people aren't getting more tolerant. Let's explore
again.
this.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Am I wrong? Because like a lot of like sometimes younger people. I'm 45. Sometimes it impresses me the way younger people, like they just have a deeper understanding of the way things are now, whereas sometimes older people have a harder time grasping culturally changes.
That's true. It's true that as we age, we can become less and less flexible.
And I know that is life. That is
Yes.
always been that way.
Well, that
everybody
kind of psychological neuroplasticity is rare in aging people. We get older and our bodies diminish. We get tired, and we also tend to concrete into our thing. And I've been blessed in my life to never have a normal job and always be switching my career along, because I was in ministry and then I was working in skateboarding. Working in skateboarding was one of my longest gigs. It went from 2005 until 2019. What is that? So that's like 11 years? No, it's
I went to
10
private
years?
school. My math is
9 years? Took 10 years to 2005 to 14. 5 minus 14 is negative. 9 years. No, that's not right. That's not right. It wasn't 2014. It was 2019. Okay. So what's 9 plus 5? 14 years. So for 14 years, my professional work was in skateboarding. I was a Mr. Mom dad. My wife had an awesome high-powered job in a home office. It was awesome. It was so cool.
I'm having a really hard time not thinking about the movie Mr. Mom.
It's a great movie.
I'm just thinking about it.
Who was the actor?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. That's
Terry Garr.
Right. Terry Garr.
And
it was great.
Martin Mull is in it, and
I love it.
The movie's
I
so
love
great.
this. That dates us, right? So I'm 5 years older than you, and this is cool because Luke is so young. He's like 20 years younger than I am, even more than 20, like 22 years younger than me. But so
he's an old soul.
He
really is.
He's got mileage on the chassis, my guy.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
It's
like,
true
no,
though. He is
yeah,
an old
just,
soul.
Yeah,
he is. So in skateboarding, you're asking about, are the gatekeepers, have they maybe learned, or are they too tired?
Are they are they not around as much? Like, is it the old industry guys?
Are they aging out?
Are they aging out, or is that getting passed along still?
Or I saw one thing. This is an opinion, by the way. Experts in my own opinion. Experts in our own opinions. One thing I saw, because I wrote a first draft article about sexual harassment, and I amalgamated scenarios out of multiple skateboard scenes all along my travel route, from talking with people, staying at their houses. I amalgamated a bunch of scenarios in it, like 3 different typical scenarios. It got published in Everything Skateboarding before Everything Skateboarding rebooted, and it got passed around and it made its way all over the place. And it was a first draft, and Bud Stratford at Everything Skateboarding, he said, this is good. It was just a draft. He published it, and he said, this is good enough to publish, man. This is great. And he put it out there, and I saw, I'm not taking like credit, but at that time, a lot of that sort of thing was disseminating. That was also the emergence of cancel culture, which I oppose. I do oppose cancel culture. I think that part of the kind of tolerance and intolerance we're talking about is, I think that there needs to be tolerance for people who don't personally ascribe to, who don't decide to celebrate other people's deal. We might not celebrate a political candidate. We might not celebrate a certain lifestyle. I certainly don't celebrate the hard drugs and drinking that Thrasher magazine has always celebrated. Mm-hmm. And for that, I used to get told, respect the NAR, man, respect the NAR. When I failed, when people discovered that I don't celebrate that, I was culturally vilified working in skateboarding. Had a guy tell me, he was art director for the company I was working with, he said, you better respect the NAR. Don't be coming out against partying, or you're, he didn't say, or you're done, but he made sure I was done, at least with that brand, before he was done. And he was ready to fight me in the street over my lack of respect for what he called the NAR. That's an intolerance that I don't. You can't require someone to think like you. You can't require someone to agree with you. You can't require, upon pain of ostracization, that somebody celebrate anything, whether it's hard drinking or a sexual lifestyle or a political candidate. No. That is that's cancel culture. That's intolerance of simple intellectual diversity. That's the kind of intellectual diversity that goes into being a pluralistic society. You're gonna have it. You're gonna have people who are like, no, if you ask me, that's wrong, or no, if you ask me, that's wrong, or this is wrong, or that's wrong. And remember that these are just the buttholes of the mind, opinions. Everybody's got them, and it's best if you don't shove them in other people's faces all the time.
Like a cat.
But you're gonna don't be a cat. But we love cats, even though they've got that pesky butthole, and we're never gonna pet it. All right, give up. Not giving up. Never gonna give up. Right? We love cats, but there's their butthole right in your face, and you're not gonna pet it. You're gonna I'm on right where the top of the tail. Stop moving like that. And
butt goes up.
Why can't we love each other the way we love a cat? Even though his opinion is shoved right in your face, you still feed him, you still love him. That's what your neighbor is like. So if your neighbor is like a rabid supporter of a political candidate that you find particularly odious, just enjoy the diversity of opinion. There's your tolerance.
I'm working on that.
It's important.
That it really is.
All of us are working on that or not working on that. There's a lot of power to be gotten. Very dark, evil Lord, one ring to bind them all, precious power that we get when we decide not to tolerate somebody's difference. Now, you get somebody who's going to death threat anyone for anything. What needs to happen when that happens? When somebody's going to vilify someone, make them the evil bad guy over anything like that, it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
It needs to be discussed. The simple fact that we discuss publicly the public behavior of those who behave that way. You get a skate shop owner who goes over the counter and starts doing, being and doing, it should be discussed. And then the ramifications of discussion might be might be had. I wrote that article. It went out, and one time I did a Facebook Live or a bunch of Facebook posts about drugs and skate shops, and immediately we had a skate shop that was always posting like, who's bringing the weed, who's bringing the weed, and all of a sudden, I remember this year, and I made notes, and I have receipts on it. If Facebook was only like 2 years old or 3, it's like 2010-ish. They went back and scrubbed every drug post, every drinking post in their whole history. And I thought, they learned something. When we discuss it, they learn. People grow. They scrubbed it. I liked the idea that they learned. You know, that idea was relatively precious to me. But I don't like the idea that they didn't learn and that they were just in CYA mode, you know?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I wonder what happens if I unplug this and plug this in. Sorry guys, technical moment. I think it's charging. Yep,
Yeah.
We're back. All right. I don't know, I can't see people's minds, but when I did the sexual harassment thing, you know, there are these murmurations that come back through the community, you know, and you learn that like, oh yeah, that was like, you know, basically you're not allowed to do what you did there because you called it out. And I'm like, I didn't call it out. I actually didn't know that was going on there. You guys were doing those things? Did that shoe fit? Are you wearing it? You know, so in this time we're in, I don't know if we're actually becoming more tolerant. Real tolerance or I don't know how to describe it because tolerance is a real tough one. It means different things to different people.
Right.
Yeah. But maturity, maybe we can frame it in terms of maturity. A mature person doesn't need other people to think like they think in order to go home and sleep that night. And a mature person in that level of security also doesn't feel the need to hold back what they think if they're involved in a good faith conversation. And so the differences and distinctions, because you know there's a whole world out there, like we struggle a lot with Christians in America. Christians like me tend to be like against abortion. You know, we see abortion as the the abolitionist issue of our day. Human trafficking, we get real worked up about human trafficking happening in America in high places of, you know, because now it's objectively CIA, Congress, you know, like that. We're real pissed off about that, you know. Christians tend to be like, hey, the Christian lifestyle is not an expression of homoerotic pleasure, you know, like that's not a thing, you know. But why don't we just take a break from the Christians for a minute and just think of the Muslims? There's a whole other world faith, one of the like top 4 biggest world faiths, that is militantly hetero-monogamous, you know, like that. Are we mad at them for that? As skateboarders, are all the Muslim skateboarders? Because they're much more militant in their holding of those beliefs than Christians tend to be. It's Pew Research and a whole bunch of things. There's a large 24, 42, I can't remember the percentage, but of American resident Muslim population still, these 26% still accept the reasonableness of honor killing within families. Should we not want to skate with them? No, dude. Definitely skate together. It's just playing with toys. You know what I mean? Like if we have to,
a real equalizer.
If we have to agree with everyone in order to play with stupid toys with them, you know,
you pick up your toys and go home.
You're at the public skate park and you're going to pick up your toys and go home because some guy rolled coal on the way in with a Confederate flag and a Trump bumper sticker, right? So you're going to pick it up and go home. When you could have mixed it up with him and he could have discovered that you love him, but you don't, right? But you could. And he could have maybe, like, you could have maybe had a conversation in which that person discovered that you had a human level of affection for him based in the fact that, I mean, these are amazing. We have these bodies, they're amazing. You know? Like, it's amazing that we're in these bodies and we get to play with toys together. I mean, you know, and even if you don't believe God made everyone and like I do, like, you still, like, every person is an existential wonder. There is a preciousness to every person that we can use as a base of affection and respect we have toward each other. And just play with the damn toy together.
Oh man, it's so much fun.
Just play with the toy. Play with the toy together and just tolerate each other.
Isn't that when we were the coolest? Is when we were kids and before all the prejudices that the world has that you hear? Yeah.
I remember being a young kid and the Sharps movement started because I was a straight edge in New York. We were the little brothers of the guys who started the movement. We were just low groms. And the Sharps movement came, and all of a sudden you had to beat up Nazis. And as a kid, I was like...
What color laces would the Sharps wear?
It depends on what they'd done.
Okay,
yeah.
I understand.
And so everyone wanted to hunt for a red lace skinhead to beat up and like that. You know, like that was going on. And I remember as a kid, I'm like, I'm not down for that. I'm not a joiner. I'm not going to join some anti movement. Double up anti. So these guys are anti, I guess, what, Jews, blacks, anyone who's not white. And you guys are anti them. Now we've got so much going on. And I just don't want to work within those establishments. I wasn't some God-fearing guy like I am now. You know, I believe that all men are created equal, and we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. You know, that's what Bible readers get, not Christians, just Bible readers, man. Like bunch of deists and secret society members, and that's fine, you know. So presently as a grown-up, but as a kid I was like, that's too much work. I can't have to always make sure that I'm hating the right people. You know, I can't pass, I'm not joining this. You know, I did eat vegetarian and went celibate for straight edge for a minute until I discovered it was part of an old Asian cult, Moonies Unification Church, were down in straight edge. Cro-Mags, the lead singer of Cro-Mags, was big.
Before the beard?
Oh gosh, yes. I couldn't grow a beard at the time. I was a kid.
Moonies are
they were way old, but they're still around.
That's a beard. Am I? Is that not a?
I don't know if you have to grow a.
Am I using a term that's offensive?
No.
Okay, I didn't know.
The Mooney Church comes out of Korea, and I don't think they grow beards, bro.
You're right.
But if you are being offensive, just a little extra spice, because folks are going to just have to get their tolerance on. You know, but in skateboarding now, skateboarding wouldn't even tolerate old fat guys coming back in and walking around in cargo shorts and enjoying the fun toy. Then, and the women in skateboarding had to endure oceans of objectification and disrespect. And people who fell outside the lines by their sexual preferences and their personal, private lifestyles. You know, if they got caught on the street holding hands with the person that they loved, then they could be absolutely ruined. Well, geez, man. Like, I guess we're making progress, but did you watch the most recent Marby? Do you know who Marby is?
Yeah.
Did you watch her latest video that came out? She's very tender.
I very much enjoy her videos. I don't know if I've seen the most recent one, but I do like to follow her.
And again, I'm not quoting it. I'm giving you my impressions as a viewer, remembering what I thought I heard, okay? But I was listening, and I heard her saying that she didn't know, like she didn't feel at home almost anywhere, and still figuring it out, I think was the way that she said it. You know, still trying to figure all this out. And I am glad that to some extent or another, that there's room now for people to figure it out for themselves in the skateboarding culture. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. That's really recent. It's really, really recent.
I hope that's true.
Well, you couldn't even be a fat old guy. You couldn't even be a fat old guy and be treated with civility at the skate shop 20 years ago. Like, wow. 2004?
Who owned the shops?
Well, I don't want to go into names, but Cincinnati and Indianapolis are legendary for unfriendly shop ownership.
Weren't there any old fat guys that owned any
No.
any shops? That's a shame.
There was a guy named Howie who had a competing shop, and Howie was a good shop owner. So the main shop opened a shop just 1 minute away from Howie's shop and shut him down. Then they closed that shop. They did pop-up shops. They had Nike money, and they used it to just absolutely destroy and consolidate their hold on the market here in Cincinnati, and then to govern culture centrally from that. And the result was all of our indoor parks are closed. I do directly link it. That's an opinion, by the way. Please pardon my butthole in your face. And we have fewer skateboarders now than we would have had. And we didn't get phase 2 on the Beachmont Park. And more. It goes on and on, the by us, for us insider group of lascivious, lecherous, harassers under the bridge. They are all into their legacy, but the real legacy of this movement is it's a big fail. It is. The only reason they can't see it is because it's the only thing they acknowledge as existing. They can't see what could have been,
Yeah, I guess just being a total outsider, I can absolutely respect the legacy part of it, but it also is just yeah, guy, your thing's gonna die if nobody is there to appreciate it. If it's just the same people.
As long as they're all...
If you keep it the club...
Yeah. Right, but as long as I own the whole club, and I'm not speaking of one person, but
I'm certainly not.
So
yeah.
you could have 15,000 skateboarders in a city, but you opted for 1,000 skateboarders as long as 750 of them are the willing acolytes of your closed culture movement. Mm. That's what happened in Cincinnati and Indianapolis. Well, Indianapolis, it really didn't work. And the guy who ran Indianapolis for a decade or more, I think that he grew. I think he evolved as a person. I don't know. He never let me know him. The only time I've ever spoken to him was a terribly angry phone call that he called me and asked me who I think I am. I want to know who you think you are, And, and I handled the phone call and I handled the aftermath. And but he guaranteed that my work would never work in all of Indiana. He was going to shut you down, wow, and Midwestern people will tolerate that kind of behavior without discussing it for far too long. They'll actually enthrone people who are bullies, who are antisocial, whose public conduct is reprehensible. They will not reprehend. They won't do it. And they'll allow things that are so unacceptable to continue to the point where you do. Instead of 15,000 skateboarders, you've got 1,000. And people are just skulking around, just trying to do their daily because they're hedonistic. And skateboarding is just, they want it to be fun. They don't want to have a bunch of fighting. But life is a bar fight, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally. Life is full of boundaries and conflicts. And anyone that tells you otherwise is selling you something. That's the second Princess Bride quote of the day. So I think it's really important for people to disagree often and with civility. I do. How else am I going to grow if my friends and not yet friends don't challenge my thinking and give me theirs? And help me to hone and sharpen where maybe I'm onto something. It's got to be honed and sharpened. The only way to do that is if people who think differently continue to be together. And skateboarding is this best possible opportunity we have. It's just an awesome opportunity for us to do just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so That's why I start getting excited when I see things like the Welfare Line and guys like Floyd Pruitt, and when I see folks like you who are coming in and just, you got your, and by the way, speaking of skate shops, I think it would be a good time to give what they call in the biz a shout out to Craft Skate Shop.
Heck yeah.
In Blue Ash, Ohio. Love and respect over to Craft Skate Shop. Guy's got 5 kids.
Brian's awesome.
Brian runs a great shop over there, and I think that for listeners in the tri-state area, come over to Craft Skate Shop, buy something that he's got, and enjoy a good conversation over the counter, because Brian is just he's a really sweet guy. I wish Craft Skate Shop all the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, give them a call.
Yeah.
If they don't have it, they can get it extremely quickly.
I ordered my stuff from Craft Skate Shop, and they stood out. Brian stood out because when I ordered something from him and it came in, he called me and was happy to tell me that it was there. Now, you're hearing some baggage.
Well, sure.
I've had the other thing.
Well, this is an anomaly, I know.
I've had the other thing many times. But that's part of the baggage of growing it. Now, over in California, where you've got tons and tons of really diverse skateboarders, and this doesn't make sense to anyone over there, But that's how it's been here for so long, and I don't want us all to forget it just quite yet, because what I see happening here is a shift of power dynamic. There's a shift of power dynamic in the media of skateboarding, and they're capitalizing on a movement that is more geared toward the tolerance of LGBTQ+, more tolerant, more embracing of LGBTQ+, and more embracing of the feminine gender, the sex, like women, right? But I'm wary lest we fall into exactly the kind of power dynamics we're far too acquainted with if they start canceling out, don't kick all the rednecks out of skateboarding just yet, right? Don't tell people not to show up or you're not welcome here. I don't think you could do a skate with a Nazi day. It's a very challenging idea, but it's so easy to call someone a Nazi now, or an extremist, right? But what if instead of telling them you're not welcome, you said, we're just playing with wooden toys, come and skate with us, and then you wound up having a meeting of minds, a sharing of hearts, and maybe after doing that a few times, they weren't as extreme an extremist.
You know who Daryl Dawson is, right? I think we talked about...
Are we talking about Daryl, the jazz musician who is continually being gifted the hoods of Klansmen? I don't think his last name is Dawson. I do know who you're talking about. He's like my favorite guy. Did you know that his event in, I think it was in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, was shut down by threats because it was accused of being a white supremacist event? Cancel culture. Daryl Davis's speaking at an event was shut down because he refused to hate white supremacists.
Yes, that's
yeah.
That man
because he wouldn't hate them. They told the venue, we're going to attack your venue if you allow that man to speak there, because he advocates for love toward people who should not be loved. This goes back to our episode entitled Love Your Neighbor, Love Your Enemy.
This man is beyond...
He's the best of us. He would skate with a Nazi.
That's what made me think of him.
He would skate with a Nazi.
Because if there's a person that, like this African American man, he's a blues musician.
Yep.
And his efforts are to fight racism. He is engaged with members of the Ku Klux Klan, have convinced a number of Klansmen to leave and denounce the KKK, and they do. They give them their. The man has a collection.
I thought he had 100 of them. He had over 400 of them.
Oh, really?
Over 4. I don't know if it has the count on there, but last I checked, I thought it was 110 or something. It's like 450.
So that man,
he's kicking off a movement, an awakening among redneck America. It's
pretty inspiring stuff. Again, and I know that there are people with all colors of skin that don't understand Daryl and are upset with him because why would a person of color want to associate with somebody in the Ku Klux Klan at all? So there are people that are angry at him for that, but it's obviously it speaks so much for tolerance and for loving somebody. And
also
this is something to aspire to, like obviously, instead of,
but also to practice.
Yes.
The word practice is a perfect word, because practice,
it's not gonna be easy.
Practice implies that there will be failure. We don't like failing, and this will put us on a route of failure. We are going to fail if we try to love. And I would say, like, so what? But it's a big deal to us, because the people who failed to love us hurt us deeply. We don't want to hurt others deeply. So we withdraw. We tribe. We put a circle around the set. And that's not what humanity even is. That's not what we are. Even if we draw circles around our set, we're still the same set. We're human beings. And loving one another is by design. Leo Buscaglia is the philosopher who did the first PhD level study on love itself. And his work is, it's a trip. It's a trip. And by the way, it blew my mind as a kid to be exposed to a few talks by Leo Buscaglia. And while you're never going to find the thing about academic work is you're not finding the full package answer to all the questions. Academic work is always an exploration of the topic. And his exploration is a lot like Daryl's work, which is not academic. It's challenging, and it puts us into the mode of being practicers, learners, amateurs. And once you've been considered pro, it's awfully hard to catch that amateur vibe again. I catch it by hanging out with people who get it. And this big idea that we're batting around is something that you get by trying and trying again. And it's something you get by hanging around with people who've got it. And I think it's why we're friends. You've got it. I feel that. I've got it. You feel that. And then the honing goes on, and we hone. You, me. It says in the Bible, it says iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I'm in the motorcycle thing, kind of heavy, and I've talked about it before. But when I see someone rocking a swastika, I experience affection. I experience, am I going to get to love someone the way Daryl Davis loves someone? Am I gonna get to practice, loving that person? When I see someone who might want me dead, because, my family is not all white, and, I understand that person might, I don't think so though, especially in motorcycling. In the biker culture, the swastika doesn't always mean what people wish it meant for them to flex their virtue, all right? But sometimes it does. And even if it were the worst case scenario, that I'm hanging out with, I mean, at a biker event, or even taking a ride with someone who is like an avowed racist. Well, all right, let's eat. Let's eat. Let's be together. Let me love on you. And if you can't stand it, if you hate me, you hate me. I'm used to that. For this, I'm branded what do they call me? They called me a Nazi sympathizer, and I'm not without a certain pride at being called a Nazi sympathizer by flexing virtue signal set circlers. I'm not I don't have a circle around my set, I hang around with the people God loves. That's everybody. But that's my cat butthole, My cat butthole take on it is that's everybody. So I don't have circles around my set. So you'd be like, Lew, well, why didn't you just walk up to that guy and punch him right in the face? I'm like, well, besides the fact that's evil, don't hit. Don't hit. Don't just walk up to someone and hit them. Why didn't you? Because I got this whole love your enemy thing. When we're opponents ideologically, I don't have the drive to take power over. I'm not in that drive to overwhelm you with power and shut you down. That's not how any of this works. The problem with life is it's so one day at a time, and the problem with the world is it's so one person at a time. To wave my arm over a whole group of people and say that those guys are da da da. I'm wrong. There's so many individual consciences and minds in there, but then I don't get to wave my arm and feel like I'm better than all those people.
Oh man, I feel called out.
Well, what am I going to get to wave my arm at now? It's fine. It's fine because but what do I get to wave my arm at? No arm waving. I don't get to wave my arm at anyone. I don't get to. But that frees up a lot of bandwidth. Some of it I use for playing with wooden toys. And
That's true. It is wasted bandwidth.
Bro, so true.
One of the hardest things I think in life to actually practice.
Love.
Yeah, or just one of those easier said than done.
It is.
Hating on something isn't gonna make you feel any better. It's just gonna, that doesn't do anything but eat you up inside. But yeah, it's hard not to carry that around.
It's like I like the Lord of the Rings image because the Ring of Power, is like the first thing you feel is a rush of power, but before long, man, it will shrivel you up and make you live forever. It's like hell. It's a hell of my own choosing, to decide that I'm just a better kind of person. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a clip that went around, and this dear girl, her name is Anna Kasparian. She's one of the Young Turks.
Okay.
They're a news organization.
Familiar with the show.
Anna is a very interesting person. I make sure and follow her career kind of closely because Anna Kasparian. Now, so that's something you'll find with me is that I follow a huge, broad spectrum of news people. I'll follow Cenk Uygur and Uygur and Anna Kasparian over on the Young Turks, which is a strange mix of Armenian and Turkish. I don't know if you know the history of those two nations, and it's named after the movement, the core. The Young Turks were an extermination squad during the Turkish-Armenian conflict. It's such a strange situation. It fascinates me. But Anna Kasparian she is a public person, and she has a clip where she's going, well, you think that you think I'm saying I'm better than you? Well, I am better than you. I'm better than you. That's just, and she owned it. She owned the perspective. She did it publicly. There's a bravery to that. There's an honesty to that, an undeniability. It's in history. And I feel like that clip of Anna, not Anna herself, but that clip of her in that time in history when she said that online, I feel like I think she gave us a gift. And I think she should be loved and respected in the fact that she's probably graduated from that place to a different place. Yeah, look up Anna Kasparian on Better Than You. It's a great clip. That's a thing to avoid at all
This
costs.
is what I'm thinking of.
Rod Stewart.
This is Rod Stewart has a
He
song
has a
called
song
Young.
called The Young Turks. I'll Google it for you. Anna.
I know I'm
Yes,
familiar with the
very
show.
good.
I've just my ADD is kicking in really hard, and
Well,
I'm
we're
thinking of like particular verses of that Rod Stewart song.
yeah. There she goes. Oh man, people are absolutely. Yeah, there's you can watch any of those, but the Anna is a person on a journey. Shank Uger is a person on a journey. So you go to we have right and left going on right now. So like go on all the way over to the right. I don't know what do you want to go as far as Alex Jones?
No, not personally.
Yeah, we go all the way to. He seems to be like the pinnacle of what do they call it? The lunatic fringe, right? So you've got him. He just did like a 3-hour podcast with Patrick Bet-David, who's a very interesting interviewer, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. From like, I mean, I don't know if it makes steam come out of your ears or not.
Alex Jones in general. I mean, I do enjoy his laid back demeanor. I think that
I was using words like unhinged in my brain. I love Alex because that's not the same thing as saying I enjoy listening to Alex, but I recognize that in the ecosystem of both journalism and a human society, that you're going to have a lunatic fringe frothing at the mouth about, and doing a terrible job at being a journalist and causing damage, causing damage along the way. I understand that is a component to the whole ecosystem. I was against his deplatforming. Like I stand in 2016, that was a bad move for everyone. The deplatforming movement, you're not saving people from bad ideas by attempting the eradication of bad ideas. Those tools which you use to remove things you consider evil will always wind up coming around and destroying something that is not, and I know it's a bridge too far in this moment.
I'm just trying to figure out what kind of skateboard. If Alex Jones skateboarded, what would it be?
It would be that big fat mamma jamma we have here. It'd be which one is this one?
Is it the Curb Nerd?
The Curb. It would be the Curb Nerd.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be the Curb Nerd. Which, by the way, that's actually fitting for this episode of the true amateur Curb Nerd. Some big fat guy on a big fat board doing slappy
I
grinds.
might buy this skateboard.
You're not very fat, by the way.
After the show, unless you keep talking about how that's the board that Alex Jones would.
The more I talk,
You
know what? I'll help you save money. I think Alex Jones ride this.
No. Hey, let me pull a total 180 on you.
Yeah.
What question about wheelbase on why would a longer wheelbase
That's great.
be
I
set?
love it.
Why would that be optimal for slappies and curb stuff?
Back to the matter at hand.
I'm sorry.
No, this is good. This is a healthy podcast. We're gonna finish on a high note.
So if Alex Jones was skating that board
Okay.
and he was going to do a slappy,
Listen, this is again, we're back to cat buttholes, right? I think a guy in a white lab coat with a proper goatee would answer this very differently to me.
okay.
Okay. I find that my conventional wisdom is unconventional. But what you get with long wheelbases, you get stability at speed. Doing a downhill shot, don't want to crank your truck super tight, want to still be able to turn, lengthen your wheelbase.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Those boards are less, I'll use this term, nimble.
Mm-hmm.
They're less nimble. So
You're talking about like when you
When you turn.
when you step
when you're
on the
turning,
tail.
when you're just turning,
Okay.
they have a larger turn radius and a greater stability. All right. So, big fat guy doing slappies.
Mm-hmm.
everybody is like against being fat. That's adult male shaped. I mean, to a certain extent, like an adult male of the species has a belly, you know. We should stop being anti-fat and we should be pro-strong. Like, just be strong. Like, I don't know, can you move a refrigerator? That should be where we are.
I'm not allowed to move refrigerators.
I know.
anymore.
You have a
Yeah.
bisected
Dissected.
aorta. Yeah, with your dissected aorta, and your descending aorta is damaged as well, right?
Yes, I've had an ascending aortic aneurysm dissection repair.
Okay.
My descending aorta still needs a repair, but they check up on that every so often, make sure it's good.
Oh, in your profile also, do you have a handicap placard?
I do.
Yep. So if you're handicapped, look at this. You got a guy, your profile, in your heart, true amateur, low talent soldier, a true lover of it, dorking and nerding out, skate shop counter, 100 questions.
From far away, you can see me coming. You're like, this guy does not.
And you're just bebopping your way to the
Yeah.
skate shop. I've got 10 questions about this wheel. And now here we are, and you're on me about wheelbases,
Yeah.
and your question is awesome. Because if I wanted a slappy board, I'd be torn. I ride longer wheelbases. 14.75 is where I like to be. I'm not doing a whole bunch of nimble stuff. I like to ride kind of a boat. I like to have a board that is a little harder to fall off of, right?
Okay.
But it's also harder to flip, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I like to be able to go at cruising speed with stability. I like the wheels to be further apart for pebbling, you know? And then when I want to get nimble, I tend to choke up on the back truck. It's not the best. The best for being nimble is a nice short wheelbase. And a dude might find that a 14.25 wheelbase is great for just slap and grind stuff. A big fat board with a 14.25 wheelbase, like an 11-inch wide. I made one of these when I first shut down. I waited a couple of years and I made a board, had a 14.25 wheelbase, and it was 11 inches wide.
Oh my gosh.
It's downstairs, and it was nimble, and I realized when I made that board that I loved it. So
That's
I'm not
awesome.
like, I need a longer wheelbase. I ride a longer wheelbase, but man, it was snappy, it was nimble, and it was so wide that I could do anything I wanted on it. So I think that as hard as I worked to get longer wheelbases introduced back in 2008, my board producer at the time, when I was ordering factory boards, told me, you're never going to sell these. They have 15-inch wheelbases, and people loved them. They loved what a longer wheelbase did. I still think a shorter wheelbase, it has a place, you know, which is, I'm also glad that Life Skateboards has a shorter mold for shorter wheelbases. You can get it if you want it. And you can ask for a certain shape and width done on the tighter
This
wheelbase.
chubby, stubby twin that they make.
There it is. Let's look at it. We're going to view that board. Chubby Stubby Twin.
So again, yeah,
It's got the wheelbase.
14-inch wheelbase.
14-inch wheelbase
And
on
it's
a
10
10.75. There you go.
Yeah, no,
right
I've
there
been
on Life
eyeballing one of those,
Skateboards. The
yeah.
Chubby Stubby Twin is just the kind of board I'm describing, and boom, they make it. I mean, they're making the boards. I have my workshop, but I'm in hiatus still. I'll make the tail guard for it, but that's where I'm at on wheelbase. So what, instead of an answer that's packaged and that you can just apply, it's a 3-minute screed full of feline anus content. You know, so
easily 3 minutes.
Yep. So that's where I'm at with wheelbase. But I'm a big advocate for you to have short wheelbases for nimble turning on paved, you know, nice.
I'm not going
sloped
very
pavement.
fast.
No.
So the shorter wheel, you know, yeah, I don't know. It makes me feel like I can move around a little bit more.
And that's what's important. For you to feel good about what you're riding, you know. And sometimes, like, you don't have something you feel perfectly good about, and you ride it for a while, take it out 3 times, 5 times, and you feel really good about it. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always nice if you feel good about it before, you know. I get that. Which is why it's a powerful thing that there are over 800 makers. Mike Villalobos over at Art of Skateboarding on Instagram. Mike, I don't know if he's still watching, but Mike has brought together and has been promoting the work of over 800 makers, different stripes. Some of them are hobby makers, some of them are making small brands, some of them are for the homies, you know. But this kind of thing, this is just where it's at. Right? If you're one of us kooks, kook. Used to be like, you're not one of us anymore if you got called a kook. And now it's starting to be like a term of endearment.
You took it back.
Or even respectability. Yeah. Yeah, they used to think I was over when they called me a kook. That's cute. That's just cute, man. You know? So, yeah. So, nice palate cleanser, pure skateboarding dimensions at the end of what wound up being a pretty deep philosophical foray into the world of, like, what is love? Don't hurt me, baby. Don't hurt me no more. All right.
That's great.
Listen, dear listeners, dear dad, dear mom, please send money. CapmLew@gmail.com is our PayPal. We would like to buy cameras and fix our studio. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you find podcasts, except we withdrew ourselves from Podbean. We have no love lost between us and the Bean. Our love goes out to the Bunt podcast, whom we have been spoofing pretty heavily. And that's all we'll say about that for now. What kind of trucks are you riding, Jeff? Oh, that's Sam at Live Skateboards.
Hey, Sam.
What kind of trucks do you want to put on a board?
Generally, I will either do Indy, depending on the board, either 169s or 215s.
That's a 9-inch or a 10-inch?
Yeah, or I like some Ace AF77s.
77s. Well, I don't even know what those are.
Those are
66s are 9. 77s would be above 9.
I think they're like 9.75 maybe. I could be wrong about that. I'm wrong about stuff all the time. And then have you seen the new ones that Ace are? I think they might even be in stores. They're 10 inches. They're basically like it's their version of 215s.
I'm a big fan of 10-inch trucks. Wasn't as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Too sloppy on the coping. Real sloppy up there. I like the setups I've been running. I like them. I don't know if I like them. Do I run what I brung, or do I actually sense a performance difference? I can't tell. I think I just get stoked and go for it. But so you're on 9 to 10-inch trucks. You could do a board. Would you like a short wheelbase board that is wide, like 10 inches, 11 inches wide?
Maybe. I tend to ride bigger boards just because I like the real estate. I'm not flicking stuff.
I could see.
There is a dog. I wish double R. There is a. Let's see.
215s turn and Indies don't.
Uh,
The Indy 215s I ride are obviously they're not lows.
yeah.
They turn acceptably. Ace's turning is tippy. It's a tippier
They're
turn than Indy, but it's deep and it's fun. So instead of doing flat ground tricks, I'm just carving around.
Me too. So
Yeah.
I have to put heavier, bushings in mine. I usually go with something hard
I do too.
or semi-hard, but usually hard.
I run hard bushings in mine. So, this is cool. We're actually talking to Live Skateboards through the Facebook comments about a board that you are dreaming of.
I'm not even kidding when I say that is cool to me.
super, super fun.
And Sam, I look forward to meeting you.
You haven't met Sam?
No.
Okay, I'm taking you. We're going up. We're going to see the new workshop in progress. Sam is as busy as a one-arm paper hanger. That's the only one I know. He's building that out. In fact, today, I think our dear friend John Ryan Zander came down from Detroit to help out. He's a carpenter, and I think they busted out a bunch of stuff. I was planning to go. We also make an obese, chubby, stubby twin that is almost 12 inches wide and a 14-inch wheelbase. What do you think of that?
I have a barge.
Yes.
I'm trying. Yeah.
That's like the barge. Come tomorrow, he says. Well, I'm gonna check. I checked the weather this morning. It was really rainy. I was thinking I'd ride the. Oh, I don't have my weather because it's taking the video.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see what.
So soon.
We're gonna see what we can pull off.
Oh my gosh.
I know that I feel really. Life feels very busy. You know how weird the boundary systems are. What does it say?
Tomorrow the high is 88, so it'll probably be like actually 95. But
What's
sunny.
Sunny.
Cincinnati. I'm looking at Cincinnati weather.
Pull up Indianapolis. Indianapolis weather will do.
Let's see.
Yeah. Well, we're going to finish this episode of the CapmLew podcast. This will be broken into multiple episodes. And we are grateful to all you listeners. Unashamed to ask you to send a one-time gift as many times as you will. And we also, I didn't give any love out today, but I wanted to give out love to just say my appreciation for the contributions of Chris Roberts from the 9 Club. And I think I'll talk more in depth about that. But the 9 Club has been blowing my mind. I've picked on the 9 Club. I pick on people. I just absolutely am enjoying a slice of humble pie because Chris Roberts from the 9 Club and his crew are kind of blowing my mind with, it's Chris Roberts' personal YouTube page. He went to the mega ramp somewhere and acted just like you, and he acted just like me, nerding out, being a kid in a candy store, and I saw it. We are all just kids, and I can't tell you what it meant to me to watch Chris Roberts being blown away by Beaver Fleming and the Nitro Circus guys, and just his mouth open, and just, I love it. So I'm going to give some more love on that end too. And I got to listen to the Bunt more, because I have a suspicion that the heart of the Bunt podcast is quite possibly got something going on there beyond the things I've seen that might be an arc that I can appreciate a lot, and I really want to do that. I remain really ticked off about enabling culture to the destruction and strip mining of young talent, but I also am ready to discover the rest of the story, so there's that too. And if you're listening and you're wearing a white lab coat and you have the best goatee in skateboarding, I love you, buddy. I'm so happy that you are with us, and I can't wait to see you again. Thanks a lot, everyone. Jeff, any final words?
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
We're gonna do
a lot of fun.
We're gonna do this again soon. All right. Much love. Here goes. CapmLew out.
Bye.